keep sharing the sound.
Let me know if you can hear a lot of background noise from my end.
No, all good. So far.
Gee. Are you playing music, Isru?
Yeah, can't you hear?
I can't.
Okay. No?
No. I don't know if it's just me though. I don't know if anyone else can.
Tell me what you see, 'cause I am a giant.
Audible.
Oh,
We'll be breaking
Maybe it's just me then.
underneath our feet. I am a giant. Oh, I am a giant.
Oh, there we go.
Gonna shake, roll the weight in the dirt under me, yeah. Gonna shake, roll the weight in the dirt under me, yeah. Gonna shake, throw the weight in the dirt, yeah. Gonna shake, throw the weight in the dirt, yeah. Gonna shake, throw the weight in the dirt, yeah. Gonna shake, throw the weight in the dirt.
The swanky jumper you've got there. What's your number?
80. Okay. Hi everyone. Hello, MC Chris in the house. You can open your camera and welcome to the AP Clubhouse, guys.
Whoop whoop.
Thank you for the support. But hi, MC Chris. How are you doing? I guess doing okay. Good evening, afternoon for you. Put in the chat. How are you doing? And open your
Oh my
camera.
god, so cute. You all have the same background. That's adorable.
I couldn't send you the background, Jesse. I'm sorry. But I think your background.
That's fine.
Nice, awesome, great, amazing, good. Okay, cool people. So we are doing something different today. So welcome to the. Okay, if you are confused, this is the session, the new Gen identity building. But we're trying to do something different. So yeah, we have a special guest in the house. Please welcome Jesse Yu.
Hi everyone.
Australia. Yeah, she was RMD 1819 APRO. She was my predecessor before, and when I was about 1920. And she was MCP of ISAC in Australia for term 1718. Yes, so what you're going to do today is we're going to have a different kind of conversation. I hope you guys have can hear the background music going on. So what you want to do, we are thinking about what we can do in this session differently, and we are thinking about having more conversation regarding the MCP journey, how it look like for us, and as for MCPs, and maybe like we can share something with you guys. And in the meantime, during our discussion, we'll be putting out some questions for you, and then you will be able to reflect from your side, and then we'd like to hear some of you sharing as well. Yeah, are you guys ready? Jesse, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Amazing. Thank you. Cool. Yeah, just so like starting on let's start with the how it all began, right? Like the MCP when you apply and all this. Um, so how is it for you? Like applying for the MCP? I think like most of people here, they just apply and got elected. How's it for you?
Yeah, well, in my case, I had the unique experience of actually running for MCP twice in the same year, and not in the whole like round one, round two kind of sense that some people might, but it was actually first in January of 2016 and then again in December. So I was an MCVP in Australia, and I clearly remember on our break, I flew off to Lombok in Indonesia. So it was supposed to be like a chill holiday, but there I was in my hotel room, just typing away on my laptop, thinking about all the things that I wanted to do for ISEC in Australia. And that process ended up being one of the best that I participated in ISEC. I think, when we look at how politics looks like around the world, when we look at, the sneaky tricks that politicians or parties might pull in order to win an election, I really felt like my first MCP election was just the total opposite of that. It was myself and an MC teammate. We were both running for the position, but we weren't running against each other. It was just an idea of who are we and what are we trying to bring to the table. And ultimately, she was the one who was chosen to be the MCP of ISEC in Australia in 1617. And it wasn't a simple decision for me at that point to say, okay, well, I didn't get it this time, let's try again. I kind of developed this idea that even if, decisions are made in life and we don't have any control over them, that doesn't mean whatever we do next should be our plan B. So I thought really hard about, if this isn't plan B, what does the next plan just look like? What is another equally as good opportunity? And that gave me the privilege of getting to apply for and work as 1 year in MC in Malaysia. And I would honestly say when I went, again, it wasn't a straightforward decision of, do I want to apply for entity again? But when I was in that entity, just the passion that people in the entity showed, the way that they were so conscious of, maybe the problems that existed with the politics there, social problems, but people were still fighting to do something through ISEC. That really inspired me. And that made me think about, well, as a young person from Australia, what can I do? ISEC is not the only thing, but ISEC is one of the best opportunities that we can have to contribute. So as you can see, it was this whole journey to getting to even applying for the second round. Running in that election was something which was also very challenging, having been away for 6 months, having felt some gaps about what I knew about the entity, but ultimately still focusing on that dream and asking myself first off, but then also telling the plenary, what am I trying to do here? What is the type of person, the type of leader that I want to be? And yeah, I guess that is what brought me to that point. And Isru, I know that you also can relate to the whole double MCVP 1 year international experience. What was it like for you?
I think it's true. Like I can feel related when you say like when you apply for the second time, like there's this gap of like, oh, you haven't lived through that year in the entity. Like, yeah, yes, you know the entity, you are coming from the same entity, but like that year you haven't lived there. Like, like then it's completely like then something. But I think like the first time I had like no motivation, like no connection with people. And then like, oh, even if people like maybe like you feel like, oh, people are expecting you to apply, but like still like it's like no, like I don't think that this is the right thing for me then. Like, but I was more excited to go for like I think MCVP role in Vietnam. um I mean, I think I didn't know the gravity of the decision I was taking for sure.
Mhm.
But I'm sure glad that I did it, because like it gives like completely different perspective, and like I think that learning still helps me today as well. But again, like I
100%.
think yeah, that's true. And like I think like last year, like when you work in the regional office, it helps to like understand like different perspectives. I think a lot, like working on different strategies. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and coming back, I think like and I think like it's easy for you to feel connected with your own entity when you're out, and like when you see like what's happening in there and what's happening, because like you're coming from that entity, and like yeah. you have that certain experience and things change, and now you kind of like miss home and like you want to go back. And but yeah, I think initially like this connection part was hard, but I think for me, I think I realized at some point I was like, okay, yeah, yes, this is not something I can bring in, but there's something I can bring in that I just cannot bring in. So I rather focus on that and like just just focus on that and like rather than like focusing on things I cannot do, but
Yeah,
the things I can do. You know.
absolutely. Because what's the point, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if we spend all day, every day just thinking about, oh, I haven't had this experience or this is an event that I can't control, that's all our time and energy going into stuff that we just can't influence as opposed to the things that we can. And I totally agree. Just getting to spend some time with another entity. And for those of you here, if you've had the opportunity to either go on exchange, do a leadership, even if you've just spent a lot of time talking to ISECers from different entities through a computer screen. I was Isuru's coach when he was MCP, and I could definitely see as well the way that just really working and communicating with someone in AP who is so different from yourself. They come from a very different culture. The way their entity works is different. All the things that you can learn and the way that actually can help to shape your perspective. Because even if you're mainly working with your team, talking to your plenary, but what are those external and really important perspectives that can be brought in? I really felt that throughout my term, and I could definitely see you using that as well, Usuru.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we want to ask from the MCPs as well. Like anyone want to share like how's the experience of getting into MCP position? Any interesting story that you like? Anything like others like might like to hear? MCPs, MCPs. This is gonna be your life, guys. Putting in the random spotlight to like talk and like. Okay, I see. It's, okay, no. Like, V, you wanna share? How was your journey for MCP? Because I talk about Vietnam.
Yes. Sorry, but can I have the question again?
How's your journey to apply for MCP position?
Okay. Yeah, okay. I think it's really great. I share this with my predecessor as well. One of my achievement during the past months is got to the position, and why I'm happy is not because I not only get the position, but also the process and the journey that I come there. Because now a lot of my friends they approach me as well, and they ask why you still in Isaac, and you got promoted like that, and like your salary increase or not. Yeah, they have very basic question like that. um, and I can share with them a long story about the journey, what I think in my mind about my friends, about salary thing, about promotion in a job outside, and how I can define my values and my passion with Isaac, and then I come to that decision. So I think it's a really great story to be told, like not only now, but maybe like further in the future as well, that I can tell to my friends outside, my family, and I'm very proud because I can have that story to tell or to tell people. Yeah, so I think it's about the process, not only about the result. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, V, for
Nice,
sharing.
thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I think I think this is also like something I always like. How do you explain like like for your friends and family? Like sometimes like they don't really get it. Like how is it? Okay. Yeah, I think Jesse, like, yeah, moving to the next part, just want to know, like, how was the journey for you? Like, what are the exciting moments? And yeah, I mean, for sure, like being MCP in Australia, it's pretty cool, right? So, how's it for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, following on, I guess, even from the election and thinking about what to stand for with, yeah, what Michael said, definitely. So for my case, I'm born and raised in Australia, and that year I spent in Malaysia was the first that I've actually lived overseas, and it just gave me a lot of clarity about what was the the state of how the country was, but also how did young people really operate there. You might hear from certain entities in ISEC, not only Australia, but just this idea that when people are used to a certain type of life, they're used to, having a lot of things almost just handed to them, that it creates a lot of complacency. And in my time in ISEC, Australia had started developing this reputation for being an entity where people are really great at talking, like looking at, those inspiring speeches or those like really great ideas and communicating them out. And people are like, oh, wow, that's such a cool idea, but not necessarily following through. And that started to really just bug me because I felt like, look, ISEC is this platform where we have all these ambitions. What we strive for is actually really amazing, but what's going to happen if we can't actually make it happen at the end of the day? And when I ran for MCP, it was with this idea of make it work to make it real. This idea that we're not just here to talk about those pretty ideas and what we want to achieve, but actually make them happen. So with your question, Isru, I think the exciting moments, for sure, it was exciting getting elected as MCP. It was exciting to run the first national conference, to address the plenary, talk to LCPs, go to those global conferences where you're really there representing your entity. I felt the responsibility of that, and it was great. But if you really ask me what the most exciting moments were, it's sometimes when I just opened my laptop and went and looked at performance. It was, having a conversation with someone in the network and realizing that they too were not just interested in talking about making things happen, but actually making them happen. And it was in those sort of quieter moments that no one really talks about or really celebrates, moments that actually might be quite boring when you're experiencing them, because no one gets that much excitement from making or opening a spreadsheet or, preparing slides for a commission meeting or whatever it is. But those were the most exciting because in those small moments, I could see the implementation was happening, that the execution was happening, that people weren't just talking, but actually making things real, which is the reason why I decided to stand to be MCP in the first place. So for me, I think I found excitement in those parts. And what about for you, Isru?
Okay, I think, reflecting on this, oh shit, I lost my voice. Okay,
Getting a bit emotional there.
little bit. I miss the role, Jesse. We don't have that kind of sound right now. No one listen to us. Okay. Cool. Anyway, I think reflecting on the question, generally speaking, I think like what excites me the most, like I don't know when I think I realized this when I was applying for the position as well. More like you have this like huge gravity toward like what you say or what you think or what you bring as perspective, and which means that either like you get the chance to share your opinion as as an individual, right, as a young person, you get a chance to share your opinion a lot with like your MC team, your network, or even externals, and it's most likely to turn into action like at some point. And it's one thing, it's like it's really nice to see that, and one thing is like it's sometimes scares you as well, like, oh wow, like what if you say something.
For sure. It's a huge responsibility. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, like, yeah, sometimes like it's. I think that's but in the one way, like it excites me a lot. Like for me, to be honest, like it's like, oh wow, like yeah. But having that support system or like having that people, like where you can share your ideas and where you can see like it's coming to life, and that is something like really exciting. I think generally speaking, exciting for me. But I agree with your point in terms of like this the day-to-day tasks that you either like sometimes you like miss to do or like sometimes you like procrastinate a lot are the ones that actually can create a long-term impact. And sometimes like and sometimes it's accumulate, like okay, if you miss something one day and like then you're like okay, it's just one day, but like then it became like one whole week like without you knowing, and that accumulation like makes you create something like long-term harm to the entity. Maybe like you forgot to do your LC one-to-one, LCP one-to-one for like 1 month, and then next month like your LCPs are like doing revolution against you in the network. So I mean, like I think can can happen, but I think like it's more like Yeah, these small things like it matters. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. MC Pace, what do you think? Looking into the upcoming 1 year, what kind of exciting moments that you like to have? What kind of things that you expectations you have for your role? Let me put the question.
Feel free to get as
Uh,
specific as you can.
Michael.
Michael.
Let me share. Yeah. So I'll tell you what my dream was. So my dream was to get MCP and then like go to IC with the LCPs. I don't think that's gonna happen. But I think that this kind of, I don't know, man, being that person with the group of people that really call the shots, and whether it's like an APM or like a P commission chat, sorry, a president's meeting, or a P commission chat, or like a conference, kind of being at the center of that very unique and special moment is something that I think happens like very rarely at any 22-year-old's life. And it's a huge responsibility because literally, like, I think your whole quarter performance, can ride on that moment, on what you do in a conference, on what you say in a president's meeting, on how you hold a P chat. And so I'm excited for that because that's a lot of pressure, but that's like, wow, when you're in that moment and everything is grooving and you see all those members there, that's like you're all moving in one direction and it's because of the P's with you. That's like, wow, that's incredible. I would love to do that. And I want to do APLS and get in the kangaroo onesie again and bring the box wine and then have people kneel down and have them drink it at least one more time.
You should wear the onesie anyway, Michael. Represent.
I should. I went to the market today, but they didn't have it. I literally
Oh,
just came from
no.
there. So I'll try again on Friday.
Yeah, better get onto that.
Out of culture. We want to see you in one scene. Like, we have seen all the MCPs of Isaac in Australia in one scene.
Yeah. Unfortunately, most of the time in like tropical weather, which sucks. So if you can take advantage of like autumn in Australia to wear the onesie, do it. Absolutely.
Okay. MCPs, anyone else want to share?
I'd like to go. Can you hear me?
Yes, Eliza.
Yep.
Go.
Okay, so I think the one thing I'm the most excited about for my MCP term is the kind of changes I want to bring to ISIC in Pakistan. Like, I want to be the kind of MCP that people remember years after my term is over and look back at my term as, let's say, a pivoting point in our journey as ISIC in Pakistan, and maybe a pivoting point in terms of the growth that we will have in the years to come. So I'm very, very excited to see how I'm able to do that. And yeah, I just really want to be someone who leaves behind that legacy for Pakistan. So yeah, I think that's something I'm really looking forward to.
Nice. I think a lot of good things are happening in Pakistan. We were about to see in the past year as well. I think building upon that, it's gonna be good. Looking forward to see.
For sure. For sure.
Nice. One more person, if anyone want to share.
I can go.
Okay, go. Yeah.
Um, so the most exciting moment for me is actually like right now because we're having get to meet each other. So I think my content is also good. But yeah, I think I'm good. Okay, so for the exciting moments to meet you guys, like all the MCPs here in AP and also around the world, because we're kind of like clueless and we have no like what are the things that we should do in our term. So it's very exciting. And also the second most exciting part would be to actually have a team because my last team when I was in LCP was so good that I mean like I'm still close with them even until like a year after the term. And I hope that I could make and create like another great team. And also the third one would be actually to see the story that our member has, because my story here in ISAC was created by the people before me. I believe in that. And how can we actually create the same stories, the same feeling to the people after us, So that's going to be a challenge and one of the most exciting part as well. yeah, that's gonna be my expectation too. Is how can we actually create like a good stuffs for our member, and how can we become the set bar for our own entity in ISAC, and how can we actually bring this ISAC to the future, because we need to change in this current situation. Yes, thank you.
Nice. Isuru, I'm listening to these sharings, right? And I mean, thinking about even our own MCP generations, or the way that people share about the legacy they want to create, things they want to leave behind. How did that feel for you on a day-to-day basis? Because it always felt like it was conference where, you know, you can share these things, you can really feel them. What do you think about actually putting them into action, and what do you think you could give as, I guess, some learnings or sharings from that, the day-to-day?
I was thinking about this as well. I was thinking on exact same lines, like what does it look like in the, because I think like it's not, you don't see it always, you know, like it's like for me, like it's more like, oh, like daily actions, like sometimes it's more like, oh, like it's the same thing that you have been doing. I really don't know like how it will create a legacy out of that. But I think the biggest thing is like you get like few touch points to create it and then reflect it and then like keep seeing it moving forward.
Yeah.
And example like, oh, in the MC plan there's a chance to like vision something and you see like um there's something that you can do, or then in the long run then there's some cool idea comes in your way, and then you think like, oh, this is something that you can do, for example like having deciding to like host IC or stuff like that for me, to be and I think like it's I mean, I don't think it's that's part of legacy, but it's more like what is the thing that you want to be remembered for, you know? And yes, it's okay, it's legacy, cool. And
Just saying it a different way. Okay.
but I think like yeah, that's I think this is, I don't know, like to be honest, like looking into like day-to-day actions, it's more like sticking to this long-term plan that you created and how much you can like as MCP make sure that your MC team not getting distracted from it. Because I think like along the way, like, oh, your MC team goes into the network and they see problems in the network, and the LCP comes and like tell you this is happening, and they quickly get like, it's easy for them to get triggered and easy for them to like, oh, no, this is not what we're supposed to do, we should completely do something else. And but then you need to go
Yeah.
back
Being
to the
reactive.
root
Yeah.
and see like, no, this is the why that we decided this. I think that's a hard part.
Sure.
How's it for you, Jesse?
I think it comes back to what we were saying about focusing on what we can control, because I absolutely agree. The results aren't there. You're not going to create a legacy every day, that's for sure. So to try and hold yourself to that standard and to tell yourself every day must be amazing, every day must be impactful is just not the way. But then if we can break down, if this legacy I'm trying to leave, what kind of behaviors are going to lead to it? And every day, how can I follow those behaviors? And like you said, Isuru, when, you know, you've got all these people around you, and it is important as an MCP to see what other people see, because you're not with the LCs, you're not one of your MCVPs. So when they have valid points that really do need to be considered, of course, how do you take that into consideration? But definitely to be the one who makes sure that the direction you're walking in is the same. Pretty much how I see as an alumna where ISEC is at the moment, because the reality is that exchange is just not very possible for the world right now. But that doesn't mean that the game plan of ISEC has changed. So in a similar way as the leaders of your entities, being able to be the one still walking towards that ultimate game plan, even if the day-to-day does adjust, and if people around you are freaking out, then how can you be the person to steer that back on track? Yeah.
I really agree with the idea of like what you said about behavior. I think that's what at the end gonna keep you going on. Like I remember like when we have this in the replanning or somewhere, when you have this conversation when you're there, you're talking about the routines and the synergies, and you're like, okay, this is turn into behavior, and like then that behavior will gonna actually make sure that you're implementing the things that are going on. So like So I think that
Exactly.
that's pretty important. Yeah.
Yeah. Focusing on the behaviors.
Let's move on. I think the next part is, yeah, of course, like I would say, down moments or bad days. Like of course, there are going to be bad days. How was the bad days look like for you, and what support you like come out of that, or like how what made you like support you to go through that?
Looking back, I think one thing I really realized is there's some aspect of the bad days, which it comes down to this idea of control again, right? Like something happens and you feel a certain way and your emotion is valid. But to a big extent, you can MCPs who took a lot of responsibility for what I was there to do. And I think that it would often stress me out quite a lot. And now that I look back, it's been a few years since that experience. And when I really ask myself, like I asked the past me, I'm like, but did you really have to confront it in this way? Did you really need to feel this way? Of course, responsibility, yes, but is it possible to be responsible and still find enjoyment in the things which you do find joy in that can actually give you energy to face all those things? Because I would say a huge part, so starting from myself, of facing those bad days, whether it was things like, network misunderstandings, whether it was being able to, really think about, okay, what's even like the legal status of the entity, what kind of things are we going through here, and just getting into that sort of deep, dark whirlpool of negative thoughts and so on. Firstly, it's just the reminder of why you're there. And I was fortunate enough to be guided to select my MC team, being very clear about what are the characteristics do I want to get out of the team. And the first one that I put down, the first one that I selected everyone on my team with, was a strong personal why. And it was in those moments that it really mattered, because, I have this mantra for myself that facts don't change just because feelings do. So maybe when I got MCP, maybe when I ran for MCP, I was on top of the world feelings wise. But the fact of what you're trying to achieve as MCP, even in those days where you feel massively down, doesn't change just because of how you're feeling. So I feel like as a first port of call, that was always something to sort of, pull you up, pull you back. It can be hard when you're the only person doing your role in the entity, because for sure you've got your team around you, you've got the network. It's not easy for anyone else to understand the exact level of responsibility or pressure that you might be feeling. And this is where the network, I think, really does count. I just remember some nights, lying in bed, FaceTime, talking to, my MCP mates in like Hong Kong or Taiwan, or just, really just venting things out. Or Eva as well. Eva was my MCP mate when they were MCP of Malaysia, and just being able to share all those things that maybe someone else in the entity couldn't understand. But honestly, as importantly as all of that, it was also the network that I had outside of ISEG. And I think this was interesting because you look at, say, family, friends who you might have known well before ISEG and you might still know well after, and they might look at ISEG as, oh, that thing that stressed you out, that thing that you spent so much time and energy on, where, maybe you weren't earning very much money, where everyone was questioning, like, why are you still here, all that sort of thing, right? And actually, we can control that as well, because how are we showing up to talk about ISEC in those instances? And luckily, with the close friends around me, I felt that it was much easier for them to be a support for me in those bad days, because when I wasn't having a bad day, I did take the time to actually bother to be there. Firstly, to be present, because, a lot of times we're just not there. We're caught up in some meetings, talking to ISECers, but really being there for the people around us, really showing, this is why I do it. This is what I get out of it. So in those bad moments, it doesn't have to become oh, like this place looks like it's really bad for you. Maybe you should just, up and leave. But to really get that balanced support from the people around, I think it's also important to think about, how we're talking about things when we aren't in those sorts of moments. So external friendships, just even family, and being able to switch off sometimes, not think about ISEC, not talk about ISEC, just for an evening, just for a day, and get back into what are the things that I am outside of being an ISECer, equally as important for recharging and dealing with all those things that we do face, I'd say. And for you?
Yeah, I completely agree with what you say. Looking back, I think probably this is a part that probably I would have like forgotten, like to like maintain that part of the relationship. I mean, like you get so much caught up in like inside the organization or inside ISAC, and sometimes like maybe you don't really prioritize this relationship outside, right? And
Yeah.
if you like, or you are not being understood outside, or like um, because you have this like separate level of like respect, like inside the organization and like outside the organization. Because inside you're MCP and outside you are just like the kid in the house, and I don't know, like it's quite
True.
like, and sometimes like you just don't want to feel that. And but I think like inside, if I talk about support system inside, I think something that most of the time people forget is like, oh, your MC team can be your best support system as well. To go through a bad day in terms of yeah, they are with you like for all the time, they see you all the time. But sometimes we maintain this like we have seen like I don't know, like MCPs sometimes they try to maintain this gap between the team and themselves as a leader, but I don't think that really I don't know, maybe it can be different leadership style, but like I think that create more hard environment for yourself than like a good environment for yourself. Yeah, I think like yeah, and I think thinking about like what outside, yes, it's very important. Like you invest this time with building relationship, and
Mhm.
like it's you prioritize that like even with whatever the things that going on, and then I think like what you mentioned before, right? Like how you represent Isaac, and like for them it's like oh like yeah, it's easy for them to say, oh, why you don't just get up and leave, and like why you're still
Yes.
at home.
Yeah.
But I think it's comes from like what you share how you share your perspective with them, because they see this through your eyes, right? Like whatever
Yeah.
they are not gonna come there and like see what's happening, and like so if you're always focusing on the negative side of it all and all the hardships, and like your reality is going to be that you're always here. What you share with other people is going to be like that. Then your environment is
Yeah.
going to be get into a place. Oh, like just leave. Like it's not like worth it. And then you internalize it at the end. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. And they can end up feeding your negativity, right?
Yeah,
And that's actually your responsibility because you've only painted this picture of what it is. So if that's all they know to be of ISEC, then you're actually limiting their ability to be able to support you. But going back to the whole MC team thing, I think you did a great job of that when you were MCP, Isuru. Like I highly enjoyed my visits with your team and seeing the kind of connection and bond that was there. I think it takes a real level of vulnerability as a leader in order to be able to have that. And yeah, it can be scary. Speaking as an MCP who I think struggled with this, where it was easier sometimes for me to maintain my distance from my MCPs because, I was scared. I didn't know how to talk about the things I was going through. I wasn't sure how they were going to be received. But sometimes you do just need to take the plunge. And whenever that plunge did happen, I can honestly say that it ends up really being for the better of yourself and how you feel, but also for the better of your team to be able to understand their leader better too.
so I think it's scary to be honest. Like it's like because it's sometimes it's accepting like oh you cannot do this, like you know don't know how to do that. Like this is not your strength, and this is a weakness. And for a new team, and we are trying to build that relationship. I think firstly you feel like, oh, this is, oh, what if I say I'm not enough? Then people will not follow me in the future, like things like that. But I think like it's completely exactly opposite. Like then people will be more open to share their flaws, the more that.
100%.
Uh, okay, cool. So I have questions for NCPs. What support you? What kind of support? Like previously when you had a bad day, what kind of support system that you use? What kind of things that help you to go through that? What kind of support system that you like to have in your journey, or like how do you like to go through a bad day in the future? I mean, yeah, if it is to come?
I'd love to hear from some people who haven't shared yet as well.
Yes, we have Afan, Banuka,
Yeah,
Elva.
I can go.
Okay, Banuka, go.
Okay, so in Sri Lanka, actually, it's a bit weird because we have this very strong bond between us. Like whenever there's a problem, like all of us, like in our current MC also, we all of us are get together and we are talking about it, and then we are planning to solve it. So I'm expecting the same thing, in the future as well. Like we need to be very accountable on our work, and at the same time we have to be a team player. Like in the last day session, it's all about like we talked about the team player role, and it's very important to be a team player. By being a team player, we can be very successful. We can be very successful in terms of making the right decisions. Even it might be wrong in that in the future, but for the situation, I think it can be very helpful. So yeah, I do love to have a team like that. Yeah.
Love it.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I think I really relate to what Isuru said, especially about being vulnerable with your team, because that has also worked with me in the past. Like, I don't like really believe in that distance because I enjoy that vulnerability, because I think at the end of the day, like whenever you're going through some shit, it always goes down to the fact that if you can relate to that with your MC team, and if you can make them understand that this is what you're going through, and that builds that environment of support when you're able to be open up, when you're able to open up with them, and so that in turn they'll open up with you. So I really believe in that vulnerability, and I think for me, in any given bad day, the support that I would expect would be the support that I could get from my MC team.
Thank you, Afan. Yeah, I realize we have a little bit more time. Anyone else want to share? Vin, Smile, Suhail, Lamin.
I can go next.
Yeah, Lamin. Is it
Okay.
Lamin?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Okay, I think what support system that I would like to have, I think is even for now when I am in MC term as well, I think it's my friends outside of Isaac that I can complain and blast to them about what happened with my work, like a normal like that I can see like a normal working opportunity, like a working experience that I have. So this is a support system that I built out even for now. And then secondly is I would like to have, and also that I would want my MC team to have, is their personal routine, like to make sure they have a personal routine. I think this is very important to keep me happy and positive every day, like meditation, yoga, like going with my own hobby, like cooking, being out with my friends. So I think personal routine is important. So I think these are the, beside physical support system, these are the mental support system that I would like to build out for myself and my team.
So important.
Yeah.
That's very true. Jesse, did you have like a coaching system or like stuff like that for the team, or like you had mentors, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
think it's
Yeah.
my own coaching system with them,
okay.
and also to also build out their mental health.
Nice. Jesse, you had something?
The coaching system. Do you mean externally or for
Yeah,
the
externally or like
entity?
like I don't think that time we had the regional office supporting you, right?
No, there were like two people for the entire region,
Yeah.
so it was a bit challenging for them. We have a BOA in Australia, and also a coach who's actually been with ISIC in Australia for like 20 plus years, I think. So he has definitely met more MC teams than most of us would, especially from the same entity. So that coach, his day job is in executive leadership coaching. So I think being able to get some of those systems, frameworks, apply it for ourselves, but also be able to reach out to him for a chat. Those were quite important. I think as well as everyone shares, it is important to remember that every person here has a different style, both in leadership, but even just in personality. And none of this is prescriptive. This isn't to say that it needs to look like this view or it should be, you know, A or B, or you have to choose, but really to figure out what works for me. And to know what works for you, you actually have to understand yourself well enough in order to do that. I like what Lumin shared about having the personal routine, because especially in this, you know, COVID world where lockdowns can happen at any moment, all this kind of stuff, our mental health is paramount. And it took me a long time in ISEC for me to really embrace this idea that I can give 100% to ISEC without giving 100% of myself. I don't think I knew that before. Even when I was MCP, that's one thing that I really wish I knew and embraced. So if you're still giving 100% to ISEC, but it isn't 100% of who you are, then what is that other percentage, and how are we also taking care of that all the time as well?
Okay, cool. Amazing. I think the last part we want to talk was the relationship building part. I don't know whether we talk about it. We already covered that in the previous question, but Jesse, do you think you want to add something for that? Anything people can consciously practice? Any suggestions from your side?
With that, I mean, not to repeat myself, but I think it does come back to who you are, in the sense of people will always say, and this is not just for ISEC, you know, the importance of networking, of connections, of relationship building. And some people are really great at approaching it as that, as in they can be very conscious of like, oh, I need to get to know like these people, let me reach out to them, let me talk to them. And for some, that might be a little bit harder to do. And I guess for me, the important thing, again, is not about you must approach it in this way, but relationships that you would like to have around you. And not just how do other people serve you, but how do you want to serve others? I remember reading something on LinkedIn the other day that said, especially for people who find things like networking or reaching out hard, it can feel, you know, tough to feel like you're asking something from someone. So I guess in relationship building, it's firstly about what do you actually have to offer other people? Because it's much easier to put yourself out there as someone who wants to provide value, as opposed to being nervous that you're just trying to ask for other people's. And I was not conscious of this when I was MCP. You know, I wasn't thinking in this way. It wasn't guiding me in any way. But when I look back and I think about the genuine relationships that were formed, it was always easier to start from a place of how can I be a support? If it's for another MCP, if it's for an LCP looking for that conversation, or even at conference, and then you just need to have that conversation with someone. Those things, especially the spontaneous conversations, might be a little bit harder in this current context. But I guess if we focus on like, what is that end outcome? How do I want to feel in the relationships around me? How do I want other people to feel? That can be a good guidance and a prompter to remember to reach out. Because reaching out, you can control. Maybe you can't control the feeling of that conversation. Maybe you can't KPI yourself and like, okay, today 5 conversations, 2 connections, or something like that. But the more that you do have them, the more it will be possible. And coming from that mindset of, I'm here to provide value in those relationships.
That's true. I think that is a very, very interesting perspective. I think that is sometimes like something you forget as well, like what you want to get and what you want to give, and then balancing out with that. But I think like for sure, like it's really good to like have that relationship building with like investing. I think we talk about investing time into that, and I think especially like with the MCPs, right? I think that is something I just want to like mention as well. It helped a lot to having that relationship or support system among the MCPs. Can be in the region, can be like whoever that you feel comfortable with. Yeah, and that gives you like, I don't know. I think that gives you like a strong like strength plenary itself, one thing, and the other thing is like you get the chance to share, get set of people that you can share your same journey with them. Yeah.
For sure. For some people, this will come naturally, right? Like if you're a more people-oriented, relationship-oriented leader to begin with, then this might be second nature. But let's just take that example. That is actually a great place to start because not all the people around you are going to be like that. Some people might be more task-oriented, you know, they might focus a lot on the strategy or the execution of things. And it's not that they don't want to build connections with people, but perhaps they're just not sort of wired that way. So either way, whatever style you are, that is a value that you can bring to be a more relationship driven person and make sure that the people around you can benefit from that mindset, or to learn from that and also provide your other value and your other benefit too. I would definitely say for me, I'm naturally a more task oriented person. And I like to think about, okay, what is this strategy and how can this be done? But at the end of the day, even if you want to see that happen, then it's still important to be able to engage with the people around you and invest time into it, because you can spend all day, every day thinking about the strategies or the plans that you want to create. But if you can't inspire the people around you to really move with you, then it's still not going to happen. So either way, doesn't matter where you're starting from, you can still get there.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much, Jesse. I think we can wrap the space up with this. And if any MCP want to add final sharing about how you feel about our conversation that we had, and what you're looking forward to in your MCP term. Yeah, maybe you can open the space a little bit for you to share.
Yes, here. Hello, this
Hi,
is
Elva.
Alva from MOC. Yes, I just want to add a little point to the like relationship last topic, relationship building with each others. So yesterday when I stayed with my predecessor Echo, she told me that she would be there like for me. I mean the mentally, because sometimes the relationship we should deal with our MCVPs are kind of complex. Like for MOC, we are now working and also living in the same place. So it's basically sometimes you just go out of your door and then it's office hour for you actually. So and we really like work and live closely. So sometimes a lot of problems or a lot of hard feelings happens. So Echo told me that sometimes it's hard for you to really reach out to someone else when you have hard feelings or you have a yes. So she would be the one who approaching me sometime. So because she really understands that when I'm in a down period, then I'm not, maybe most of us won't be the one who reaching out because it's too tired for us to speak out even for the facts. So I think it's also add a new perspective for me. Maybe we need some good predecessor or just your friends to tell them, reach out to you and asking you hang out, although you have a lot of things to do, but I think it would help. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And I really love what Jesse shared. I think it's sometimes I'm thinking about our relationship with MOC's alumni, because we keep asking them some questions, some helps if they can help. Yeah, but actually it's been a problem that we cannot find what diverse alumni would need, like from as a return. So I think it's also like give me another thinking on this topic. Maybe we should build a two-way bridge to each other, alumni to alumni or alumni to the current. Yeah, so thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Elva. I think like she shared interesting perspective about like relationship with the predecessor. I think like that is also like something that I don't know how it always goes with the MCPs, but the thing is like I think for me like just as RM, like I think I had a good relationship with my predecessor. And but MCP, like I don't think like you invest a lot of time, because sometimes either because like you come in and like you want to do something completely different, and maybe like then you don't want to have a relationship. But I think that's also important relationship to maintain.
Yeah. On the predecessor relationship, it can be very different, right? Some people are just going to be closer than others. I think that's fine. I think you can't really force those things. But particularly in those situations where, like what Isuru said, if the plan is like, oh, I actually want to do something really different, and if there are things that maybe you don't agree with what your predecessor did or whatever it might be, but still, how can you still learn from the best of what they did? I think that's quite important as well, because if you can always see like, actually, they have, you know, XYZ strengths, these are things that I either want to continue or want to learn from, then it's not about forcing a relationship necessarily, but at least you can still maintain a respectful and healthy one and continue to learn from the past, and not just change things for the sake of them, but change them in a meaningful way and keep going with what works, basically.
Amazing. Okay, I think I reached into the end of this space. One final sharing, if anyone want to add something. Going for one, going for two, going for three. Okay, thank you so much, MC. Please, thank you so much, Jesse, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's a very random conversation that we want to have, and I think she's the best person that we can have that conversation with. I hope you guys get the chance to learn something out of it, and just didn't want to be like a typical presentation. Amazing. Thank you so much, people. I think your next space, you have, I think there's a small break. You can follow the calendar. I don't know if someone here like Tom or someone, but if not, it's fine. Cool. Nice.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jesse.
All the best, AP. Bye.
Bye. See you guys. See you.
Bye. Guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me stop sharing and stop the music, and we are ready to go. Okay, so you can find the next link in who below. Just follow it. See you guys. Bye.
Bye. See you.